both ourselves and plants rely on microorganisms in order to feed us. And in the case of the plants, the microorganisms process the raw materials that are in the soil, in the humus, or in the fertilizers that we give them, and they break it down into a plant-available food. In ourselves, the microorganisms live in our gut. They take the food that we eat, which is provided by those plants, and break it down into a form which can be absorbed through the intestine walls and into the body. So it's the same sort of process. You can think of the gut and the soil as having the same role. The other thing that's interesting is that the chemical processes carried out by plants and people are very, very similar. Both plants and people take the raw materials, which are the elements like zinc and magnesium, and then they process them through using enzymes, and they process them through a whole series of stages to create things like bones, teeth, hair, to repair cells. They transport these materials all around the body or around the plant using either the blood or the chlorophyll in the case of the plant. What also happens in both plants and animals is that if the particular element that it requires for a process isn't there, the next best one is selected. And that's got its good points because it means that the plant or ourselves, we can survive, but some of the consequences are fairly nasty, in fact. What's really coming out very loudly in the studies I've been doing is that there is a very strong hierarchy of elements for plants, and I suspect the same applies for humans. We cannot grow anything in our garden if we don't have sulfur. Both plants and animals respond to substances that are foreign to them in the same way. In the human gut, what happens if we get something like glyphosate in the gut, we marshal a whole lot of defense mechanisms, and the plants do the same thing. If an insect attacks a plant, it marshals chemicals that actually deter that insect and make it go away. They actually produce an aroma or a poison that the insect doesn't like, and it just frightens it away. The other thing is, and this I find is extraordinary, is the communication that takes place both within plants and within people. The brain and the gut are in constant communication. And if something is wrong in the food that we're eating, the brain knows about it immediately and responds accordingly.
So it's not well understood, but it's now coming to light that the gut or the digestive system is a nervous nexus or a centre. More nerves come out of the gut, or as many nerves come out of the gut that comes out of the brain. So what are the implications of these findings and these opinions on that?
Well, anything that is in the gut and is happening in the gut is going to affect a large number of processes carried on in the body. If we get a foreign substance, we marshal the immune system response. And it takes a huge amount of energy for the body to do that. Same as with plants, they do the same thing. If we have missing elements, then the body reacts and the brain reacts. It hasn't got the sort of food that it needs. And glyphosate is collating these elements and tying them up so they're not available to us.
Plants are stationary,
right.
but animals are not.
That's right.
But plants have the ability to manufacture their own food.
Yes.
Whereas humans need plants.
Absolutely.
And animals.
Absolutely.
So would it be fair to say that we need plants don't need us?
Absolutely. Probably one of the questions I get asked most by people who are novice gardeners or even who are fairly experienced is how do we get rid of pests and diseases? and they are always quite surprised when I say pests and diseases are not the problem. They're actually a response to the real problem, which is soil imbalance. When you have a soil that's totally nutrient rich and fully in balance in the way it was designed to be, then pests and diseases just don't occur. And I think the same applies to human health. And so what we're doing is actually interfering with the balance of the microorganisms, which also have to be in balance for good health for the soil and for human people, and we're reaping the rewards, which is diseases. And in plants, we're reaping the reward in terms of pests. And Roundup, which is supposed to kill weeds, is now actually creating the most monstrous weeds which cannot be got rid of. Even using bulldozers, they are so strong.
Why did you find Stephanie Seneff's research so significant to your own work?
Well, one of the things that I've discovered in the last few years is the incredible significance of sulphur, and this is one of the things that she's actually identified as being incredibly significant, that the sulphur pathways in the body are being interrupted.
What we've just covered is the background and context of how this herbicide called Roundup influences plant health, soil health, but also gives the background that leads into how it affects human health. In part 2, we will explore further how it affects human health, what are the mechanisms, and actually identify some of the human health problems that have come from this and how that might work.